So this is not a story you see every day, huh? Turns out if you got some toenails and you're thinking, yeah, okay, it's a big deal. If I said to you that they have something or could potentially have something to do with cancer or recognizing cancer, specifically lung cancer, would that pique your interest? Yeah, well, that's the story, as it turns out. A team of researchers from the University of Calgary wants your toenail clippings, but it's not creepy. They actually want to do it for what I'm just saying here. They want to analyze those clippings and look into the possibility of cancer. So let's try to find out more. Dr. Aaron Goodarzi is a professor of biochemistry at the University of Calgary in their School of Medicine. He's on the line. Doctor, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. Look, it's a strange headline, as I said, right? People might look at this and go, wait a sec, what? But from what I read in the story, right, and this concerns radon, people have heard of radon. We know that it's something that you can't smell, you can't see. And it turns out radon is the leading cause of lung cancer among non-smokers. How does this tie into that?
So, thank you. Yeah, it is a bit of a weird story, but it kind of makes sense once you reflect on what radon does once we breathe it in. And basically what happens then is the radon emits radiation. That's what damages the cells of your lungs, increasing risk of cancer. But then it precipitates. And it precipitates and very quickly becomes radioactive lead. And your body then treats that just like it does any lead and tries to get rid of it. It's not very good at doing it, which is why lead is so toxic. But it tries to get rid of it. And it does so by putting it in our skin, our hair, and our nails, which are slowly shed. And so we've been looking at using toenail clippings as a measure of someone's long-term radon exposure.
And so you're actually asking people to clip those toenails, send them in, and you've obviously, gotten requests or at least, information people have been looking for as to what happens to it after the fact. So what do you do with this once you get them?
So we're asking actually two things. People have to collect their toenails over 4 months, and at the same time perform a radon test in their house, because we need to know both pieces of information for this validation trial. So if people are eligible, all they have to do is have healthy toenails and have lived in their house for at least 5 years. Otherwise, first come, first serve in different regions of Canada. Then at the end of that, after the 4 months, they'll post those in to us in little baggies. What happens to the toenails then? Essentially, we liquefy them in acid, put them over a mass spectrometer, and then measure the amount of radioactive lead. And we'll correspond that with the known amount of radon from their house. And the point of this is to validate whether this is a useful tool in order to measure someone's long-term radon exposure. Why we're doing that is for lung cancer screening. We want to be able to screen people for lung cancer on the basis of radon exposure, something that can't yet be done.
So I mentioned just a moment ago, so the estimate, right, is 1 in 5 Canadian homes have dangerous levels of radon. But the problem, of course, is most people are unaware. As I said, you can't smell it, you can't see it, whatever. So I'm wondering now, someone sends in the toenail clippings, they meet the criteria that are necessary here, and what happens after that? You compare the toenail clippings to what the existing level of radon is in their house, and what the lead level in the toenail clippings is the tip-off?
That's right. Specifically the radioactive lead. There's only one way really we can encounter radioactive lead, and that is via radon exposure. So although we do look at the total amount of lead, it's the amount of radioactive lead that we found in a pilot project indicates someone's long-term radon exposure. And you're absolutely right. No Canadian functionally has a valid radon test from every indoor air environment they've been in the past 20 years. But that's the information you need in order to figure out if someone's been exposed or not. And that's what we're hoping to then use to get people into lung cancer screening if they need it.
So you mentioned it. So people wonder, first of all, why toenails and not like fingernails, for example?
Great question. So two reasons, really. The first is simple. Our fingers and hands, they see a lot more stuff day to day, food, cleaning products, workplace things, and people are far more likely to attach cosmetics to those than their toenails. Second, so we don't want to have all those variables. We want to simplify the equation as we do our science. Second, though, our toenails actually grow slower than our fingernails. You probably noticed you cut your toenails probably half as frequently as you might do your fingernails. Because they grow slower, they're a better readout of your long-term exposure. So for those two reasons, we went with the toenails and not the fingernails.
Yeah, and it's mentioned in the article as well. This is interesting. You kind of look at a toenail like the rings of a tree, right? It tells you a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long-term readout of things that we've been exposed to. I mean, other folks have used toenails, for example, to look at long-term arsenic exposure as a readout for someone who've been exposed to that. So yeah, our nails, in this case our toenails, really can be a very good readout, because that is how our body is slowly trying to get rid of these nasty things that we've encountered in our environment. And of course, compared to the other stuff, I always joke with my students that it's better than the red stuff, the yellow stuff, or the brown stuff. Toenails are easy, cheap, convenient in order to analyze. In this case, it's actually the ideal thing, so it makes it all the better.
What's been reaction so far to this?
Amazing. Canadians have really come out to support this. We're looking for 10,000 people to consent to participate in this work. So get a radon test and send in their toenails. We're about 7,000 down out of 10,000, so we have 3,000 to go. And so, yeah, it's going really well.
I would ask as well, let's say, you get done all this work and, you eventually come up with an answer as to, what it is you're looking at. What happens to that person who then, you're not going to know whose nails are who, are you?
Absolutely, yeah.
You will, okay.
Although that is all kept absolutely private, of course we have to track everything about the activity pattern, so how much time that person spends at home,
right,
as well as the radon level, in order to then correlate what's lead in their toenails to their known radiation exposure from radon gas. And if it all works, if this works, we can then report back to that person what there is. If it doesn't work in the way we would like, we wouldn't report back, because it wouldn't be considered, in that case, clinically informative. But if it does work, and it is clinically informative, this would mark the beginning of a new phase in Canadian lung cancer risk reduction, in this case, early screening.
Is the government involved, or Health Canada involved with you in this, or are you doing this on your own?
So this is a project supported by a $5 million grant by the Canadian Cancer Society.
Okay.
We do certainly work closely with Health Canada and other organizations about all the stuff we do with radon. And so this is a project that involves multiple universities from across Canada and supported by many a good agency, of course, thanks to the Canadian Cancer Society for this.
Yeah, I would, by the way, just point out at the end of it, when I said individually, like, let's say someone listening now decides they want to go ahead, and I'll ask you to, tell them how to do that in a second. But the idea would be, in order to even sort of qualify, you mentioned, number one, you would have to have a radon test done in your home, so that you could, when you do the analysis, eventually say, well, based on what we see in your radon test and based on what we see in your toenails, here's what's going on. So there's a benefit, by the way, to getting involved, just because at least at the outset you are going to be told about the radon levels in your own home.
Absolutely, yeah. All participants will be that are eligible will be sent a radon test at no cost. The condition there, of course, is they have to spend 4 months collecting every toenail clipping they produce in that time.
Okay.
Send both of those back to us. They will absolutely get the household radon reading that their test shows. And then, of course, they get the aggregate results of the whole project.
Right.
In terms of how much lead we find in everyone's toenails, although no one will be identified.
No. So
privacy will absolutely be guaranteed, and each individual will get the household radon test that their test shows.
I'm kind of smiling, thinking, really, I don't have a big concern with people knowing what are what's in my toenails, but that's fine. It's no one's business, I guess. When you say you're sending out a test as part of this, what's involved in that? Is that just leaving something around your home to collect data? What is it?
Yeah, that's right. So it looks like a little hockey puck or an ant trap. You just pop it out of a vacuum-sealed plastic bag. Again, it's no bigger than a hockey puck, and you're going to put that in the lowest level of the house that someone spends at least 4 hours a day.
Okay.
Personally, I love bedside tables. We spend an awful lot of time sleeping in our bedrooms, and so that's a great place to place the radon test. All you do is pop it out the bag and leave it alone for 4 months. While you go on with your life, and then every time you collect your toenails, which is typically once every 30 days for most people, you're just going to pop those clippings in the baggies, and then you're going to send 4 baggies back to us, once for every month of the test, and they all come back to us at the same time, just via the post. So, you don't have to do anything or go anywhere other than receive it in the post, deploy it, and then send it back in the post.
So for people listening, if they want to get involved, what do they do?
They go to evictradon.org, and if you go to that website, you're going to see something, a little big bar there that says Test My Home. That'll click out to our 3 opportunities right now. The usual one is our citizen science, but the toenail study literally says toenail study on it. So click on that. You'll fill out the eligibility criteria. Basically, you got to have lived in your house for a minimum of 5 years. You have to have healthy toenails, and the house can't have been previously mitigated for radon, can't have been fixed for radon. We want to look at houses that are otherwise nobody knows what the radon is in there. We also have another opportunity for people experiencing disability that's separate. But you'll find all of that at evictradon.org.
Looking at it right now, evictradon.org is the site. Doctor, I want to thank you for your time this afternoon. This is great. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. All the best.
You bet. You too. So there you go. Hang on to your toenail clippings. Keep them for a month. You get a free radon test and just find out if where you're living is okay. I think this is great. Good for them.
The biggest songs in the world. You've heard them countless times. Now, learn the details of how they came to be. Join Ruby Carr for Encore, the stories behind the songs you love. New interviews and newly unearthed archive footage make for a fascinating weekly deep dive. Stream Encore, the stories behind the songs you love on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts.